Welcome to your deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're tackling a question we all face, like, at some point in our careers, right?
Yeah.
What does it really take to get ahead?
Uh-huh.
Not just being good at the job itself, but like that extra something.
Right.
You gave us Frankel's Stop Sabotaging Your Career,
Yes.
plus some research on teamwork and how we're perceived at work.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be good.
It is interesting how often we focus on the obvious skills, but miss the underlying dynamics.
Right.
The things that can make or break success.
Like, I get the whole be competent part,
Sure.
but Frankel throws this derailment concept at us.
Yeah.
High potential people suddenly stalling out.
Yeah.
Why? Why does that happen?
It's almost like a paradox.
Okay.
She's arguing that our childhood coping mechanisms, the things that got us this far, can become our downfall.
Okay. Now I'm intrigued, but a little confused.
Yeah.
How does childhood play into this?
Okay, so imagine Jamie. She's killing it at work, super independent, but that independence came from, like, a really rough upbringing,
Okay.
where relying on herself was essential.
Right.
Problem is, as her role grew, she couldn't delegate.
Ah,
She was so used to doing everything herself that she became, like, the bottlenecks.
oof. I feel that. Have you ever felt like your go-to move, the thing you're good at, is actually the thing that's holding you back now?
Absolutely.
This isn't just Join's problem.
Yeah, oh no, this is pretty common.
Okay.
It's like using a hammer for every task.
Right.
Sometimes you need a screwdriver.
Yeah.
The takeaway here is recognizing when those ingrained habits aren't serving us anymore.
So unlearning what made us successful.
Yeah,
Okay. That's a mind bender.
it is.
But if it's not just about competence, then how do we, like, play the corporate game right?
Well, the sources emphasize understanding the unwritten rules.
Okay.
It's like a sports field. There are boundaries,
Uh-huh.
but there are also strategic risks to take.
But those lines are invisible. How do you even know what's out of bounds?
It's about reading the room,
Okay.
being adaptable, the company culture, the specific project, even just like who's in charge at that moment. All of that influences what flies.
Right.
Think about your workplace. What gets rewarded?
Mm.
What gets you penalized?
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like you stepped over a line without even seeing it?
Oh, too many times to admit. But here's something that keeps popping up in the material. People,
Yes.
relationships, teamwork, that human connection side.
It's huge.
Why is that so crucial?
It's not just about being likable. Research shows that those with strong relationships in all directions, up, down, sideways,
Right.
they are seen as more valuable.
Interesting.
It's about trust, reciprocity, showing genuine care. Those are the foundations.
Okay, so being someone people want to work with, someone they can rely on, that goes a long way.
Absolutely.
But is there a point where being too perfect backfires?
Definitely.
Okay.
Frankel actually talks about Sam, brilliant guy, but a total perfectionist.
No.
Saw small talk as a waste of time, held everyone to his impossible standards. He ended up isolated,
Wow.
which obviously hindered his career.
It's like those strengths we were talking about.
Yeah,
Too much of anything can become a weakness.
it's true.
Let's dig into teamwork specifically.
Mm-hmm.
What separates the truly great team players from the rest?
Frankel's point is it's a skill set, not just being nice.
Okay.
High-performing teams need people focused on tasks
Right.
and people focused on keeping the group cohesive.
So getting stuff done, but also making sure everyone feels valued along the way.
Right.
Is there an example of that done really well?
California Pizza Kitchen is fascinating.
Okay.
Their servers share all tables, no assigned sections,
Wow.
fosters collaboration, benefits everyone.
Interesting. So it encourages a shared responsibility for the overall success.
Right. And speaking of shared responsibility, the Ritz-Carlton does something similar. Every employee can handle any guest request, even outside their normal duties.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's about seeing the bigger picture, not just your tiny piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. That willingness to go above and beyond, that's key.
Okay. This next bit is a little unnerving. Perception.
Yeah.
The sources say it's not just what you do, but how it's seen. What are the key takeaways here?
Image and communication are huge.
Okay.
Everything sends a message, clothes, body language, your tone of voice.
Right.
It's about projecting competence and confidence, even if you're faking it a little at first.
Dress for the job you want. That's what they say, right?
Mhm.
But isn't that a bit superficial?
Well, it's about aligning your appearance with the expectations of your workplace.
Okay.
Frankel actually gives the example of George, a very talented manager, but he dressed way too casually.
Huh?
People doubted his professionalism just based on that.
Ouch. I get how first impressions matter,
Yeah,
even if it's not fair.
it is true.
But is there a danger of going too far the other way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's also Jeff. He was held back because people were so focused on his looks, they didn't take his work seriously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that sweet spot.
Yes.
Authentic to you, but also fitting the context.
Mm,
This is making me rethink my whole wardrobe strategy.
good.
So it's not J.C. Keyclose. Frankel talks about listening,
Yes.
not just hearing, but truly understanding both the message and the emotion behind it.
Exactly.
Listening with a third ear, is that some kind of superpower?
It's more like a heightened awareness, paying attention to tone, body language, what's not being said. She breaks it down into 3 steps.
Okay.
Paraphrasing to make sure you understand,
Uh-huh.
asking clarifying questions,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the tricky one, reflecting feelings.
Reflecting feelings. Oh, well, I'm not great at reading between the lines. Isn't that a bit risky at work?
Yeah.
Could come off as too touchy-feely.
It's about acknowledging the other person's emotional state, even if it's unspoken, like you sound frustrated or it seems like you're feeling overwhelmed.
I see how that could build trust,
Yeah.
but you'd have to be careful. Not everyone wants to bare their soul at work.
You do have to read the room,
Right.
adjust your approach, but done well, it shows empathy and deepens connection.
Okay. This is already mind-blowing. Frankel also mentions doorway conversation.
Yes.
Those little chats that seem like inconsequential. I'll admit, I sometimes tune those out.
Mm-hmm.
Why does she think they're important?
Well, she argues that they are the building blocks of relationships. Chances to build trust, to show reciprocity, genuine caring. It's about weaving this tapestry of connection in the workplace.
So even those quick, like, how was your weekend exchanges,
Yes.
those matter.
They can. It's about consistency, those small actions building up. She really highlights trust, reciprocity, and genuine caring as like the essential ingredients for strong relationships.
Okay, trust, I get.
Yeah.
But what does she mean by reciprocity?
It's a two-way street. Sharing information, offering help, being there for each other, not keeping score, but recognizing that relationships thrive when both sides benefit.
Like a bank account.
Yes.
You got to make deposits, not just withdrawals.
Exactly. She even uses the phrase quid pro quo.
Whoa, that sounds a little transactional, doesn't it?
I know, it can sound a bit cold,
Yeah.
but she means it in the sense of understanding what each person brings to the table
Okay.
and creating win-win situations.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
Not keeping score, but building goodwill.
right.
So relationships are just as important as technical skills.
Once you are competent at what you do, it's the relationships that really differentiate you.
This is making me rethink my whole approach, not about being fake, but being intentional about connection.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And there's kind of a flip side to this, what she calls the likability trap.
Okay.
Being liked is good, but needing it from everyone, that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see how that leads to bad decisions.
Just to keep everyone happy.
You avoid conflict, you over-apologize, you don't set boundaries. That's a recipe for burnout.
Frankel has this story about this, right?
She does.
Yeah.
It's about Maria, super likable, but it held her back.
Okay.
She was so focused on pleasing everyone that she never asserted herself.
Mm-hmm.
Never disagreed. Definitely not leadership material.
Being too nice backfired.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance. Kind but firm, assertive but not a jerk.
Exactly.
And this stuff takes time, right?
Yeah,
It's a marathon building these strong relationships, not a sprint.
it is. She actually uses some interesting political examples. Bill Clinton and Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, okay. Didn't see that coming in a career book.
It's about how childhood shapes us, like
Yeah.
we were talking about before. Clinton, obviously known for his charisma,
Yeah.
connection with people. Well, he had a tough upbringing.
Right.
Frankel argues that fostered his need for approval, but also his exceptional people skills.
So his strength came from overcoming hardship.
What about Thatcher? Total opposite personality.
Yeah, Thatcher, the Iron Lady,
Yeah.
very strict upbringing. That instilled self-reliance, focus on achievement above all else.
Okay.
But, Frankel points out, both of them had struggles. Clinton's need for approval led to some impulsive decisions. Thatcher alienated people with her harshness.
So even at that level, it's about balance.
Yeah.
Speaking of balance,
Yes.
Frankel also talks about balancing those relationship skills with actually getting work done.
Yes, she does. She gives an example of a woman who was fantastic at relationships.
Okay.
but was not getting promoted
Why?
because she was so focused on being liked that she couldn't make the tough decisions.
Oh, okay. So stuck in likability limbo.
Yeah.
Her strength was her weakness.
Exactly. Leaders need to be able to delegate, give feedback, and sometimes deliver bad news. Being nice all the time just isn't enough.
It's that sweet spot again.
Yeah.
Assertive but kind. This is a lot to unpack.
It is. And remember, building those strong relationships, it's an ongoing process. It takes effort, genuine intention.
So Frankel gives like a lot of practical tips, right?
Yeah.
Active listening,
Yes.
doorway conversations.
Mhm.
And she keeps coming back to that quid pro quo idea. I'm still wrestling with that phrase.
I know it can be a tough one, but it's about understanding what you bring to the table and what you need, finding that win-win.
Not tit for tat, but mutual benefit.
Right.
She has a personal story about this, right?
She does. She helped a colleague with a really tough assignment, and years later, that kindness came back around in the form of an unexpected opportunity.
So proof that those small acts of generosity can have ripple effects.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to networking.
Yes.
Frankel dedicates a whole chapter to it, not just collecting business cards,
Yeah.
but building genuine relationships.
Yeah.
Ones that can provide support, advice, opportunities.
It's crucial.
So it's about planting seeds that will grow into something bigger.
I like that. She talks about approaching networking with generosity, with reciprocity, offering value to others, being helpful.
So making deposits in that relationship bank account again.
Exactly.
But also being a valuable member of that community, not just showing up when you need something.
Right. It's a two-way street.
It's all making sense now. This deep dive is really showing me how all these pieces connect.
That's what we're aiming for.
Okay, let's shift gears and dive into teamwork.
All right.
We've touched on it. But Frankel goes pretty deep, using examples from sports, hotels, even a space mission.
It's fascinating how she connects them all.
She highlights this concept of synergy, the whole being greater than the sum of its parts.
Right. That magical moment when everything clicks.
Yeah.
And for that to happen, you need a balance of people focused on tasks and people focused on the relationships within the team.
Getting stuff done, Andy feeling good doing it.
Exactly.
She mentions California Pizza Kitchen again, right?
Yes, their shared table system.
All right, and the Ritz-Carlton, where everyone pitches in.
So about going above and beyond.
Frankel also talks about the different personality types on teams, right?
She does, yeah. People approach teamwork so differently. And that's a strength, not a problem.
So leveraging those differences.
Exactly. She gives an example of two leaders who were constantly clashing. One was very task-focused. The other was all about relationships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds rough.
It was.
Did it work out?
Once they understood each other's styles, they thrived.
Communication is key.
Absolutely. All of Frankel's advice on active listening, empathy, it's crucial here.
Mm-hmm. She also gives tips on being a better team player, right?
Yes. Things like staying engaged, compromising, celebrating wins together.
So shifting from me to we.
Exactly.
Now she talks about these matrix teams, which sound like a whole other level of complexity.
They are overlapping responsibilities, multiple bosses.
Like navigating a maze.
It is. You need clear communication, defined roles, and a commitment to the shared goal.
So adaptability is essential.
Yes. It's not for everyone, but it can be very rewarding.
Okay, let's circle back to perception.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just what you do, but how you're perceived, right?
Frankel talks about image, communication, body language, projecting confidence even if you don't feel it yet.
Fake it till you make it.
More like practice till it becomes natural.
Okay.
Yeah.
She talks about George and his casual clothes again, right?
Yes. And Jeff, who is too good looking.
Finding that balance.
Right. And seeking feedback, getting an objective view.
Like a career stylist.
It is an ongoing process, just like building relationships.
So much good stuff here. This is really making me think.
It's about self-awareness, understanding that human element.
And being open to learning and growing.
Exactly. It's a journey.
This is incredible. We've covered so much ground already.
It is fascinating how all these seemingly separate pieces connect.
It really is. Okay, I'm ready for more. This idea that career success hinges on so much more than just skills.
Yeah.
A little intimidating, but also kind of exciting.
It is empowering, I think.
Yeah?
Once you understand the rules of the game, you can play it strategically.
Frankel spends a lot of time on those political figures.
Yeah.
Clinton and Thatcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just either personalities. She's tying it back to their childhoods, right?
Exactly. She argues that Clinton's famous charisma, that ability to connect with anyone, stems from his difficult upbringing. He learned early on how to read people, build rapport, It became like a survival skill.
So something that could have been a weakness became a strength.
Right.
What about Thatcher?
Yeah.
She's all about strength, but not so much the warm and fuzzy side.
Thatcher's childhood was very structured, emphasis on achievement. It made her self-reliant, determined. But Frankel says even those strengths had downsides. Clinton's need for approval could lead to bad decisions. Thatcher's unyielding style sometimes isolated her.
It's that balance thing again.
Right.
But how do you find that sweet spot when everyone's different?
It's tough.
Frankel talks about understanding different personality types, right?
It's crucial, especially in teams. She emphasizes recognizing that people approach teamwork in various ways.
Yeah.
And that can be a positive thing.
Not trying to fit everyone into the same mold.
Right. She has this great anecdote about two team leaders who were constantly butting heads.
Oh boy.
One was super organized, task-oriented. The other was all about building relationships.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It was. But once they acknowledged each other's strengths and adapted their communication styles,
Okay.
they were unstoppable.
So sometimes conflict comes from just not understanding each other's approach.
Austin, yeah.
But back to this idea of balancing task focus with relationship building. Frankel gives an example of someone who was amazing at the relationship part,
Yes.
but couldn't get promoted.
Right.
Why?
She was so worried about being liked that she couldn't make tough decisions, give direct feedback. It held her back.
It's that likability trap again.
Yeah.
You can be kind, caring, but you also need to be able to set boundaries, hold people accountable. Otherwise, you end up getting taken advantage of.
It's about finding that balance between being supportive and being assertive.
Right.
It's not an either-or situation.
And Frankel has a ton of tips on being a better team player, right?
Yeah, lots of practical advice, staying engaged in meetings, being willing to compromise, celebrating team wins together. It's about shifting from a me mindset to a we mindset.
She also talks about matrix teams, which sounds super confusing.
They can be. They often have overlapping responsibilities, multiple reporting lines, and a less hierarchical structure than traditional teams.
So it's like you have multiple bosses and projects all going on at the same time.
Exactly.
It sounds like you need a high level of organization and communication skills to thrive in that kind of environment.
You do, and it's not for everyone.
Right.
But for those who can handle the ambiguity and complexity, it can be very rewarding.
Frankel offers some tips for navigating matrix teams, right?
Yes, she emphasizes the importance of clear communication, well-defined roles and responsibilities, and a strong commitment to team success.
It sounds like adaptability and flexibility are essential.
They are.
Okay, enough about teams. Let's talk more about networking. Frankel makes a big deal about it.
She says it's crucial for career success, but it's not just about collecting business cards.
Right.
It's about building those authentic, supportive relationships that can open doors.
It's about those long-term investments, planting seeds that will grow into something bigger down the line.
Exactly. And approaching it with generosity, it's not just about what you can get,
Right.
but what you can offer, being helpful, providing value to others.
Makes sense. But what about when you're not naturally outgoing?
Yeah.
Networking can feel so forced.
Frankel says it's a skill you can develop just like anything else. Start small, maybe with people you already know.
Yeah.
Look for opportunities to connect with people in your field, even if it's just a brief conversation at an event.
So baby steps, no need to become a social butterfly overnight.
Right. And remember, it's a two-way street. Be genuinely interested in other people, ask questions, listen actively.
So going back to those active listening skills we talked about earlier, it
Exactly.
all comes full circle.
Networking is really just another form of relationship building.
Okay, let's talk about this quid pro quo thing. I'm still not entirely comfortable with that phrase.
I understand.
It makes networking sound like a business transaction.
It can sound a bit cold, but I think it's important to remember that Frankel isn't suggesting that you keep score
Okay.
or expect something in return for every favor you do.
Okay, so it's not about bartering or exchanging favors.
Right. It's more about recognizing that healthy relationships are built on mutual benefit. You're helping each other out, providing support, opening doors for each other.
Right.
But it's not a tit-for-tat exchange.
Right.
It's about building goodwill and trust.
So it's like a long-term investment in your relationships.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that idea of networking that we were talking about earlier. Frankel sees networking as a form of quid pro quo.
Okay, so it's not just about collecting business cards and attending industry events.
Yeah.
It's about building those mutually beneficial relationships that can help you advance your career.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about what you can get. It's also about what you can give.
It's about being a valuable member of the community.
Right.
This is really making me think about my own approach to networking. I need to be more intentional about building those authentic connections.
It's a great goal to have.
This is all so insightful. It feels like we're cracking the code of career success.
I'm glad you're finding it valuable.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into this idea of perception. It seems like a recurring theme in the sources.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's not just about being good at your job. It's about how other people perceive you.
Right. Frankel talks a lot about the importance of image and communication in the workplace.
So it's not just about what you do. It's about how you present yourself.
Exactly.
She uses the example of George the manager, who dressed too casually. It ended up hurting his career.
It did. People doubted his professionalism because of his appearance.
It seems unfair, but I get it. You want to be taken seriously. But then she talks about Jeff, who was held back because he was too good looking.
It's a real thing. People can be so focused on someone's appearance that they don't see their skills and abilities.
So it's not just about dressing up. It's about finding that balance between fitting in and standing out for the right reasons.
Precisely. It's about aligning your image with the message you want to send.
This is making me think about my own wardrobe choices.
And remember, it's not just about clothes. It's about your body language, your tone of voice, the way you carry yourself.
So it's about projecting confidence.
Confidence and competence.
But what if you don't always feel confident?
Frankel says confidence is a skill you can develop.
Fake it till you make it.
More like practice till it becomes a natural step outside your comfort zone. Take risks and don't be afraid to ask for feedback.
Speaking of feedback, Frankel also emphasizes the importance of seeking feedback on how you're perceived, right?
Yes, it's crucial. Ask trusted colleagues or mentors for their honest opinions.
It's like having a career coach in your corner, someone to point out your blind spots and help you make adjustments.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process, just like everything else we've talked about.
This is a lot to process. It's like we've uncovered all these secret rules of the workplace that nobody ever tells you about.
And it is a bit like that, isn't it?
It's exciting and a little daunting at the same time.
But remember, the more self-aware you are, the more you can play the game strategically and create the career you want.
I love that. So it's not about being perfect. It's about understanding the dynamics playing to your strengths and constantly learning and adapting.
Exactly.
This is incredibly helpful. It feels like we're peeling back the layers of the onion, uncovering all these hidden truths about career success.
I'm glad you're finding it valuable.
Okay, let's shift gears a little and talk about something that comes up a lot in the source's childhood experiences. It's fascinating how Frankel ties these experiences to adult behavior in the workplace.
It makes sense when you think about it. Our early experiences shape our beliefs, values, and coping mechanisms.
So even something that happened years ago can still be influencing how we act at work today.
Absolutely. And it's not always obvious.
Okay, this is intriguing, but how does this relate to career success?
Well, let's go back to our examples. Clinton's charisma and people skills, which were so crucial to his political success, were honed in the crucible of a difficult childhood. He had to learn how to read people and build relationships to survive.
So a potential weakness became a strength.
Exactly, and Thatcher with her emphasis on achievement and self-reliance that came from her upbringing in a strict, disciplined household.
It's fascinating how those early experiences can manifest in such different ways.
It is, and Frankel argues that we need to be aware of how our past might be influencing our present behavior.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we uncover those hidden connections?
It starts with self-reflection. Think about your childhood, the challenges you faced, the lessons you learned.
Okay, so think about your childhood.
Right, and ask yourself, how might those experiences be shaping my behavior at work?
Are there any patterns or tendencies that I can trace back to my early years?
Exactly. It's not about blaming your childhood for your current problems, but about understanding the roots of your behavior.
It's about gaining self-awareness.
Exactly, and once you have that awareness, you can start to make conscious choices about how you want to show up in the workplace.
So you can break free from those old patterns that might be holding you back.
That's the goal.
Okay, this is starting to make a lot of sense. So we've got these childhood experiences shaping our behavior, but then we also have these unwritten rules of the workplace that we need to navigate. It's a lot to juggle.
It is, and that's why Frankel emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and adaptability.
You've got to be able to read the room, understand the expectations, and adjust your behavior accordingly.
Exactly. It's like learning a new dance. You've got to be able to follow the steps, but also improvise when necessary.
Okay, so we're dancing through the workplace, navigating unwritten rules, and trying to figure out how our childhood experiences are impacting our behavior. It sounds exhausting.
It can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding. When you start to understand these dynamics, you can create a career that is both successful and fulfilling.
So it's not just about climbing the ladder, it's about creating a work life that aligns with your values and goals.
That's a great way to put it.
It's about taking ownership, right?
Yeah,
Not waiting for permission or like someone to hand us a perfect opportunity.
absolutely. And that ties back to what Frankel calls self-sabotage. Often we're our own biggest obstacle.
We talked about how strengths can become weaknesses, but are there other like subtle ways we hold ourselves back?
She gives examples of women specifically who downplay their accomplishments or apologize unnecessarily.
Oh yeah.
It stems from societal expectations, but it impacts how they're perceived at work.
So almost like we're internalizing those limiting beliefs.
Mm.
How do you like break out of that?
Awareness is the first step.
Okay.
Notice when you're doing it.
Right.
Then consciously practice owning your achievements, speaking with authority. It feels awkward at first, but it changes how others see you and how you see yourself.
It's almost like reprogramming your brain. This whole deep dive has been like that, challenging assumptions I didn't even know I had.
That's the power of exploring these different perspectives, right? It's not just about Frankel's view, but connecting it to your experience, what resonates with you.
Thinking back to the beginning, we were talking about those seemingly high potential people who derail. Knowing what we know, NW, it feels less mysterious.
They're probably missing some piece of this puzzle. Maybe they're brilliant but can't build relationships,
Right.
or they're great team players but can't adapt when the game changes.
It's like you need all these different skills working together, almost like a recipe.
And the ingredients will vary depending on your field, your goals, but this deep dive has given us a framework to understand the recipe, right?
It totally has. I feel like I've gained a new level of awareness about myself and how to approach my career.
That's great to hear. What stands out to you as the most significant insight?
Hmm. Tough question. I think it's this idea that career success isn't just about what you KNOW, but how you navigate the human side of things.
Hmm.
The relationships, the perception, the unspoken rules. It's almost like a secret language.
And like learning any language, it takes practice, immersion. You won't get it perfect overnight.
That's comforting, actually. Gives me permission to experiment, make mistakes, and learn along the way.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
Wow. This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. We've explored the hidden dynamics of career success, from the surprising impact of childhood experiences to the subtle art of teamwork and the power of perception. And it all boils down to this. Career success isn't just about what you know. It's about how you connect, adapt, and perceive the world around you. One final thought to leave you with. What one small step can you take this week to experiment with one of the ideas we've discussed? Maybe reach out to a potential mentor, pay closer attention to your body language in meetings, or try practicing active listening with a colleague. Remember, small changes can lead to big results. Until next time, keep diving.